Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. When is the Blood Syndicate not the Blood Syndicate? When Reginald Hudlin is in charge. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. In a previous video, I took Milestone's Blood Syndicate to the barbecue for its soy-filled and absolutely gooey redesigns of Wise Sun, Fade, and Tech 9. And I took a minute to go over to the DC Comics website, and the premise for Blood Syndicate is just as cringy as these redesigns of these classic Milestone characters. Now, the original Blood Syndicate that was released in Milestone Comics in 1993 was a group that formed from 2 gangs, the Paris Bloods and the Force Syndicate. And the formation of this superpowered gang was known as the Blood Syndicate. Now, the Blood Syndicate was a gang that ran the turf of Paris Island, and over the course of the run, they made a lot of their money by shaking down drug dealers and dealing with all sorts of individuals who would try to invade their turf. And they had confrontations with Icon and Rocket and other superheroes like Static as they were going about protecting their turf, which was Paris Island. Now, that was a very interesting and very compelling premise for a team as related to comics, but in Milestone 2.0, your Reginald Hudlin has decided to go in a completely different direction as related to his interpretation of what he's going to call the Blood Syndicate. Now, in Reginald Hudlin's Blood Syndicate, it's going to be not a gang that forms out of 2 previous gangs that fought over your Paris Island's turf. No, it's going to be a group of ex-military veterans from Afghanistan who come to your Paris Island and want to go out here and form some sort of team. Now, Holocaust has been recruiting some people of his own, but these other 3 individuals who were former military, your Tech 9, your Wise Sun, and your Fade, they are coming to form their own team. Now, this is a bit of a problem here because this really runs counter to the original premise for the Blood Syndicate, which was basically a superpowered gang fighting for their turf. So we have your Wise Sun, your Tech 9, and your Fade, who are being presented as some sort of heroes who are supposed to be fighting against Holocaust and his gangs. And again, that runs counter to the original premise for what the Blood Syndicate originally was. And when you change a premise of a concept, you change it into something completely different. That's the mistake that Warner Brothers made back in 2004 when they released the Catwoman movie starring Halle Berry. Now, many comic fans out here, they became extremely upset when the Catwoman movie was announced, and it wasn't Selina Kyle who was going to be the focus of the movie. No, it was going to be another character, Patience Phillips, who was going to be the lead character. And this led to many comic fans becoming irate because after the success of the Spider-Man movie in 2002, many comic fans felt like the whole superhero genre could be derailed by the success of this movie, as we would get deviations in adaptations of superhero movies, and that's why a lot of comic fans did not support the Patience Phillips Catwoman. But the Patience Phillips Catwoman was an adaptation that stripped away the original concept and tried to present viewers with a new concept that wasn't true to the source material. And that's what's being done here with what I call the, well, I can't say a butt syndicate, I mean blood syndicate, is they are being presented as the original gang, but these guys are not the original gang, and this is not the original gang concept. No, this is something completely different, and it is not really connected to the original Blood Syndicate, and it just really shows how your Reginald Hudlin is about trying to present some of his own ideas instead of trying to remain true to the source material. Now, I know some people would be upset about the whole concept of a gang as a comic book, but that was one of the things that made the Blood Syndicate premise unique. This whole thing with the Wise Son and Tech Nine and Fade being the heroes, that really, again, if you want to do that concept, then do that concept under another name. Don't call it the Blood Syndicate. Call it something else. Call it Three the Hard Way. Call it Three Heroes. And it would be a fantastic premise to see three ex-military going in to try to clean up a community. But don't call it the Blood Syndicate, because they are not the Blood Syndicate. Yes, they have names that are similar to the other characters, but when we look at their designs, when we look at their concepts, this is a completely different concept. This is a completely different premise. And if you're going to do a different concept and a different premise, do it under another name so that the concept can build momentum and find its own audience. Because when you go out here and attach another name to another concept, what happens is that many of the people who knew the original concept become very angry, and a lot of comic fans were very angry about these gooey and cream-filled and soft-looking concepts because these designs don't look like the characters. These concepts don't even represent what the original characters originally stood for. And if you want to do a story with your new ideas, put a new name on them and put a new name as related to them and have them be this team that goes out here. Don't go out here and make it something else. I mean, if you want to make your Fade, your Wise Son, and your Tech Nine the Force Syndicate, then make them the Force Syndicate. Don't make them the Blood Syndicate, because they are not the Blood Syndicate. No, they are the Force Syndicate, because that's what the gang that Tech Nine was a part of back when he was out here before he became a part of the Blood Syndicate. But don't add something else to something else and then wonder why it doesn't sell, because this, as I see it, is a big disaster for your Milestone 2.0, which has already been a complete debacle as related to your Static, who has been effeminized, your Icon and Rocket, a book that is jumbled and directionless, and your Hardware, who has become nothing more than a butler, going from one white man to the next as he goes and takes his passport and goes overseas. And then we now have your Blood Syndicate, which is not Blood Syndicate. And what's really sad about this whole Blood Syndicate premise is it shows how much your Reginald Hudlin and the people at Milestone have taken black comic fans for granted. In an age where we have thousands of black comic creators like myself out here, the Milestone is just not taking the customers very seriously. And they're not really going out here and presenting customers with the diversity of thought we got in the original Milestone universe. No, they're trying to coast on the brands that were established back in '93 instead of going out here and presenting us with something that would have compelling stories and high qualities. What we're getting here is them just going out here and thinking, oh, I'll just put out some black characters as so-called representation with a lot of flash as related to the brand name. but not giving us any of the substance I have seen from many of the independent comic creators out here, like Concrete Comics, and creators like your Raymond Leonard, who's created Agent Solo, and Kevin Greville, who had created the fantastic Bass Reeves miniseries. I mean, so many great comics out here, but your Milestone is not taking the competition very seriously, and they're coming out here with these half-baked concepts like this Blood Syndicate, and they're not really understanding how fierce the competition is and how badly they're struggling as related to producing quality material. Because I look at this whole premise of the Blood Syndicate, and I'm not really seeing a strong image of masculinity like I saw in Kevin Greville's Bass Reeves series or Raymond Leonard's Agent Solo series, and I'm not seeing a lot of quality that I'm seeing as related to Concrete Comics, which handles this same premise much better in the pages of Acolyte and Absolver. In those two books, they handle a similar premise, and they do it far better, and they execute it far better than what I've seen in Milestone 2.0. But this whole trying to change the Blood Syndicate, it really comes across as really weak, because your Blood Syndicate, again, they were a gang, and if that's the premise, then if you don't want to use that premise because you say, oh, the gang is outdated or the gang is not positive, then come out here with a brand new name and use that name instead of going out here and tarnishing the name of a previous brand. If you want to go out here and say, okay, you're going to make Wise Son, Tech 9, and Fade the heroes, then call them the Force Syndicate, the original name of part of that was out there from the original comics. And many of those Blood Syndicate fans who read the comics and heard Tech 9 talk about that, they would go out here and connect the dots and pick up on that. Don't come out here with token diversity characters who look soft, gooey, and cream filled, and then try to attach a name to them that doesn't fit the concept or the premise. So when I look at this whole Blood Syndicate, again, this is a complete creative disaster, but it just shows how mismanaged Milestone has been under Reginald Hudlin, and how your Milestone 2.0 is basically not about being creative. It's just a place where they want to go out here and tokenize black heroes and promote identity politics of the left in the pages of their books. Basically, these comics are not comics about superheroes. They're just super-powered propaganda. Now, my upcoming comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is almost complete, and I'm getting ready to launch that Kickstarter soon regarding the John Haynes at Death's Door comic. But until then, you can pick up my first comic, Esteem No Good Deed, on Amazon.com for 99 cents, and you can also pick up other books on the SJS Direct imprint that feature action-packed African-American fantasy, such as the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spencerella trilogy on Amazon.com in paperback, or you can also find them on other digital formats such as Kindle and other online platforms like Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets from the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Pre-order your copy of ISIS Legacy on Amazon.com today.